Chapter 2. After a trip taking a while, the transport with Mica stopped and her door opened. A voice finally could be heard from the front of the transport. "This is where you get out. Enter the elevator down 3 levels." Mica grabbed her duffel bag and followed the directions. Exiting the elevator, a guard was waiting. The guard led the way down a hallway until he came to a door. He knocked, then opened the door. With the guard standing to the side, Mica entered it, at which point the guard stayed outside and closed the door. Sitting at a table with a label saying Cmia was an older man in a shirt and tie. He looked up as Mica entered. Cmia closed the folder he was working on and smiled. "Welcome, young lady. I know this has been a little mysterious, but there is a reason. Have a seat and I will explain." Mica proceeded to sit down her duffel bag and take a seat in front of the desk. Cmia studied her quietly. "You are quite the unique lady. Pilot with the name of Lightning, a top-rated physics major, highly rated in hand-to-hand combat, 3 years experience. But most interesting is your research paper. We are building a ship, not any ship, but a ship that can sense blood moving through a body at 20 clicks. A ship that can sit on the ocean bottom and sense the noise of a pulsing star. Your paper, young lady, just set our program years ahead of schedule. We need you to help us turn this paper into reality. Also, with your background, you can help design the cockpit controls. Does this sound of interest to you?" "Yes, I'm in shock, but yes. Now let's take you to the main room where we will introduce you around. They are all waiting to meet you." Cmia rose and, indicating Mica to leave the bag, exits the room as they head down the hallway. The guard is following as they approach a large set of doors. Getting closer, the doors automatically open, allowing them entrance and a view of a large, sleek ship taking form as engineers are working over it. Mica stops in her tracks upon seeing the ship. Sensing her stopping, Cmia smiles and announces, "Welcome to the Variax project." Days later, Mica is working with some of the engineering team as they look at the plans for the receiver arrays positioned around the sides of the ship. Jason, the engineering lead, looks at Mica as she points to the drawings. "I know you are designing this mainly for a monitoring system, but if you were to add transmitter units in these open locations, I could design a powerful beam weapon. I designed a similar one during my engineering studies." The engineering team lead, Jason, looked around at the team. "I think we can pull some transmitters together to fit in the spaces and wire it to the control panel. Billy, I want a powerful connection that will handle plenty of power if applied. Mica, I will let you work with the software team to build the control software." Over the next weeks, Mica integrated into the design engineering team. Once designs were established, she would move to working with the mechanical and software teams as the designs were put in place. During her free time, she would spend time in the Variax flight simulator as she tuned the controls, trained herself, and added additional design options to the ship. After a hard 3 years effort locked in the underground research site, Mica stood on the assembly floor and looked up at the ship with a smile as men were finishing working on Variax. There would be celebrations later, but for now she just stood and watched with pride at the wonderful ship that had taken 3 years of her life to build. This ship was her baby. She understood every inch of the complex systems and every line of the software coding. She knew what the ship could do and where its systems were more capable than even the design team understood. While sitting in Variax in a cave in the far north, Mica continued her story. "I worked on Variax for 3 years. Finally, the day came to take it out for a test. What we didn't know was that the enemy had been tipped off. It was a midnight liftoff for our testing flight. A building set on the edge of a large green field. Suddenly, the A-frame roof slides down, and Variax vertically rises out of the building. It was the same building Mica had entered those years ago. Mica, Control Center, this is Lightning. I have cleared the launch tunnel and have open skies. Beginning altitude test sequence. Mica's hands danced across the controls as the ship shot forward, then curved upward, gaining altitude. She had on a flight suit and mask to feed her special breathing at high altitude and to handle the high speeds of the ship. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. I have contact with the refueling transport to top off my tanks. Variax pulled beneath the fueling transport and makes connection. Thank you, tanker. I'm filled up. Breaking connection. Control. Tanker connection works fine. Continuing with flight profile. After refueling, the ship broke away and continues to climb. I have reached 70,000 and will attempt 90,000. Mica looked up and saw the dark of space as she continued to push the ship. I have reached 90,000 and am leveling off. Activating sensors to record background signals. It's dark and beautiful here. I see only a band of stars in our galaxy and nothing else. I have never seen this sight. Normally I see the stars of our galaxy against the backdrop of the full universe. Being on the edge of the universe gives us the enjoyment of having two equally lovely views. Mica waited for the data recording to complete while she looked in awe at the band of stars in the sky against the total blackness. When the recording indicator turns from green to red, Mica returns her attention to her controls. Returning to 30,000. Ship handling like a dream. We'll lose comms for a moment. The ship rolled over as it began its dive. After accelerating while dropping, Variax reached 30,000 and leveled off. Returning to active transmission. Gun target at view. Variax approached the designated gun target. Mica's hands blazed across the control panel, and the target exploded from a focused energy beam from the ship. Mica pulled the ship into a roll and banked left as the ship headed back to the farm base. Suddenly sensors went off and Mica saw on her sensor display an enemy target headed for the surface entrance. Mica screamed a warning across the radio, knowing there is nothing they can do to stop it. Warning, warning, warning. I see a target approaching the surface entrance. We have an enemy transport. Its transponder signal appears to be fake. Accelerating to try and engage. Variax approached the surface entrance and Mica targeted the transport. Before the transport was in range, it crossed just above the building as two packages dropped. Moments later, a large explosion took place. In panic, Mica screams over the radio, "No!" Mica watched as the transport ship comes within range and the pulse beam reached out and destroyed it. Moments later, the ground, for a click around the building, lifted and then sunk, creating a large hole in the field with a growing dust cloud. Variax banked off and headed south as Mica momentarily sunk into depression. After a moment, she shakes it off and changes channels. Command, be aware that the enemy has struck Research Center. Repeat, enemy has struck Research Center. This is Lightning, heading to main base south. With the destruction of the development base, the ability to create another Variax was destroyed with it. We operated so secretly that there was no backup of records, kept outside the development base. The pain of losing so many friends took me months to get over. Only my work focus allowed me to survive the heartache. Command had me in sessions to get me past the depression. While most of my time after reaching the base dealt with trying to document the ship as much as I could, there was a time when I was commanded to lead a strike group.
We do not get paid by YouTube for any of our videos. So please consider contributions. Thank you. If you enjoy our videos, please click Patreon on the front page and buy me a drink. Thank you. Please like and subscribe the Watcher in the Fall channel.